Starlight on Highway 93 Maya Reyes had learned to trust three things on night shift: the soft growl of the ambulance, the staccato heartbeat of the monitor, and the way the Nevada desert turned the road into a ribbon of ink. She and her partner Dom were halfway between nothing and Alamo when the radio cackled, half static, half plea. Possible pileup. Biohazard markers. Mile marker 119. Avoid the ambulance lights cut a hot blue swath across Joshua trees and sand. Dom thumbed the siren and looked at her, the question unspoken. You good? Let's go, Maya said, already snapping on gloves. Fear was there, like always, small and manageable, the way a spark lives in the wire. It never left. Never quite grew up either. They found the wreck at the bottom of a dry wash. One tractor trailer folded into itself like origami, a black SUV with government plates parked crossways, and Maya blinked, a third vehicle that wasn't any make she knew. It was low and ovoid, pearl black with veins of blue light under the skin. It had no wheels, no windows. It hummed, almost felt like a throat clearing. Dom whistled. What in God's— Shut it, Maya said, because something about the scene was wrong. The wind tasted like pennies. Her radio spat dead air, then a single word. Evacuate. Blue hazard triangles were staked into the dirt around the ovoid craft, the kind she'd seen on hazmat drills. They weren't local. The SUV's doors hung open. A woman in a black tactical suit lay face down in the dust, and a man, late 40s, pale like the moon, knelt beside her with a gun in his hand and an expression like a bad verdict. He stood when he saw them, slow and smooth. You weren't supposed to be here, he said. His badge clipped to his vest read S. Hendricks, a patch on his shoulder, Sentinel Dynamics. Dom lifted his hands. Hey, we got a call. Turn around, Hendricks said. Turn off your camera. This is a federal— He didn't finish because the ovoid hissed and a seam opened along its belly. Air rushed out. It smelled of rain. Light pooled on the hardpan, pale and trembling, and something stepped down into the world like someone getting out of a bath. Careful of their feet, Maya would remember the moment for the rest of her life with a tenderness that surprised her. The first time Kesh looked at her. Tall, a little taller than Maya, built like a dancer. Skin a translucent opal with constellations under it, as if something inside shone and the body just negotiated the glow. Hair, or a halo of filaments that behaved like hair, hung to their shoulders, dark silver and alive. Their eyes were the color of wet obsidian, and when those eyes met Maya's, every sound in the desert cut out like someone unplugged the night. Not a miracle, a physics trick she'd learn later. But then it was this. A silence like being held. Hendricks swore. Back in the vessel, he snapped, training the gun on Kesh. Subject is awake. Kesh looked at the weapon, puzzled, as if Hendricks had offered a fork in a soup course. Then they turned their head and saw Maya. If eyes could ask questions out loud, these did. Who are you? Are you safe? Maya, she said stupidly. I'm Maya. Dom shot her a look that was 80%. What are you doing? And 20%. We are so dead. The tactical woman on the ground groaned. Maya moved on instinct, kneeling, checking an airway. Pulse weak, blood clotting in a quick, ugly puddle under the ribs. She needs a chest seal, Maya said, and without waiting for permission, she tore a packet open and slapped the clear circle over the sucking wound. You, she said to Hendricks. Help me roll her. Hendricks stared at her like she'd grown a second head. Then Kesh stepped closer. The air cooled a few degrees. Maya felt the hairs on her arms rise. Kesh's fingers hovered above the woman's chest, and the seal bubbled and then flattened. The woman wheezed and then took a clean breath, eyes rolling toward Maya, grateful and scared. What are you? Hendricks asked, the gun wavering now between Kesh and Maya. He kept it on Kesh, perhaps because the choice made him feel like the world was still a box with corners. Stay back. Subject is to be contained. Subject has a name, Kesh said, and Maya heard the words twice, once in her ears and once in a bright line across the back of her skull that wasn't sound at all. I am Kesh of the Kef. I am injured. I would like to go home, Hendricks swallowed. You don't get to want things, he said, voice flat with policy. Your property pursuant to... He stopped again, mouth a hard line. Pursuant to your non-existence. Kesh looked at Maya again. Maya Reyes, they said, testing the language like a glass they might drop. Will you help me? They didn't touch her. They didn't need to. The question ran through Maya like a filament going live. Suddenly she saw the ovoid not as a ship, but as a crushed egg, felt a pain in their side like a pulled muscle, and then a deeper pain like homesickness in the weather. It should have been too much to process. It was a flood. But Kesh held it back with a gentleness that felt like someone holding a door against a storm. Help me load her, she told Dom, and he did because he always had. They slid the injured woman onto the gurney and up into the ambulance. Hendricks let them because he wasn't in charge of this night anymore, and some part of him knew it. He pointed the gun at Kesh and didn't shoot. The hospital in Alamo, Maya said. We can... No hospitals, Hendricks said quickly. You will bring her to our facility. You will give a statement. You never saw... Enough, Maya said, her voice small and iron. We're going. Get in or don't. Hendricks raised the gun. And that's when Kesh moved. They didn't become faster so much as time became thicker around Hendricks. Like honey for him and water for Kesh. In that syrup moment, Kesh reached out and plucked the gun from Hendricks's hand. A magician making a coin vanish, except the coin was a firearm, and the trick was physics. They stepped back, eyes never leaving Maya's, and placed the gun on the ground, gentle. No more pointing, they said. We dislike that. Maya could have sworn she heard a chorus in the word we, a whole choir of selves nested like birds in a tree. It made her shiver, unafraid. They drove. Dom kept glancing at the rear view, where Kesh sat with impossible grace, legs folded, watching the injured agent breathe. Hendricks followed in the SUV, boxed in between a duty and his heart. Maya could hear it in the way his lights never closed the distance entirely. What are you, really? Dom asked after a while, voice shaking. Kesh turned their luminous gaze. What are you, really? They echoed and then smiled, slow and soft. There is science and there is story. You may choose. Story, Maya said, surprising herself. Science would come. Right now, she needed to know who she was sitting with, not what. We are travelers who sing to stars. We weave distances into ropes and pull ourselves along. We were curious about your songs. We are sorry we arrived badly. That craft, your ship, egg, Kesh said. We grow new roads in eggs. This one cracked wrong. A shadow crossed their face. We were chased. By who? Maya asked, but she already knew it wasn't Hendricks. By a silence, Kesh said, and the way they said the word made the cab feel briefly vacuum-sealed. A machine that eats signal. We tasted it here before, small and human. This one was larger. We hid in your sky and then we fell. They reached the Alamo Clinic at 2:13 a.m. A nurse named Luann, who'd known Maya since high school, took one look at the agent and carried her back without questions. The town was good that way. It let you be complicated in private. Maya signed forms and peeled off gloves and watched Kesh stand awkwardly in the corner like a friend at a funeral who didn't know the family. Hendricks came in and took off his sunglasses, which was ridiculous at night and also a signal. He wanted to be seen as a person. We need to talk, he said. His voice had lost its government edge. It sounded tired. Later, Maya said. She's still critical. She'll live, Luann called from the back like a benediction. Go holler somewhere else. They stood outside under a sky that had been there long before any of them and would be there after. The ambulance ticked as its engine cooled. Crickets were brave enough to speak again. I didn't sign up for this, Hendricks said, staring at a spot on the parking lot like it might yield a map. I thought, I'm not a bad man. He glanced at Kesh. We didn't know you could talk. People often make cages for things they think can't, Kesh said. No malice, just a fact. Why do you chase? Because there are rules, Hendricks said. Because the first people who find something like you get to define what it is for everyone else. Because the people who write the checks think owning is the same as understanding. And you? Hendricks rubbed his face with both hands. He looked older without the shades. I wanted to keep anything that could hurt us from doing so, he said. And to keep us from hurting ourselves with it. which I acknowledge requires a trust you have no reason to give me." A dull thud echoed across the desert, like someone dropped a boulder in the sky. Maya's breath fogged. Kesh's filaments lifted as if in a sudden breeze. "Silence," they whispered. "It is here." The clinic lights flickered. The radio on Maya's shoulder died and then returned, spitting out a slurry of channels as if it had swallowed different tongues. The parking lot lights went dark. In the distance, something black unfolded from the horizon, as if a piece of the night had decided to move. Dom walked out, hands up like he was peace-talking with a god. "Whatever that is," he said, "it's making my teeth hurt." Hendricks pressed his finger to a calm she could not see. "This is Hendricks. We've got a Vanta signature moving in from the east." "No comms," Kesh said. It wasn't a prediction so much as a diagnosis. Already the comm was just a plastic shape on Hendricks's collar. "It eats signal. It will eat your power. It will eat our songs. We must move." "We can't move her," Maya said, meaning the agent. "She's stable, but not road stable." "We can keep the clinic alive," Hendricks said quickly. "There's a generator. If it's my silence, it'll choke on an EMP, but only for a minute. Then it adapts. We have to outrun, not outgun." "How do we outrun something that eats speed?" Dom asked. Kesh looked at Maya, and Maya felt the door open in her mind again. This time, Kesh didn't flood her. They placed a single thought in her hands like a fragile thing. The egg, the ropes. "Weave us a road. I can give you a road for a little while," Kesh said aloud, "for the humans. But I need an anchor in your world, a chorus. An agreement." "Agreement to what?" Hendricks asked. "To be together," Kesh said simply. "Not forever." "For long enough to harmonize." Dom scratched the back of his neck. "Is this marriage?" he asked. Kesh tilted their head. "It is shelter." Maya took a breath. She had always been the one to jump first, even when the ground wasn't sure. It was a flaw when she was 17 and jumped into a fight to stop her friend from getting hit. It was a gift when she was 28 and jumped into EMT school because the world needed a different kind of rescue. Now it was both. "Okay," she said. "Take what you need. Stay in the lines." Kesh's smile was the sunrise finding the edge of a mountain. "We will be careful." They stepped close enough that Maya could see tiny fractal patterns in Kesh's skin, like frost on glass. They didn't touch her skin, not at first, just hovered a hand over her sternum. Heat gathered there, not hot, just attentive. Then Kesh placed 2 fingers on Maya's shoulder and hummed. The sound was not a sound. It was a chord you taste, a color you hold in your teeth. It was the feeling of remembering a name right before it returns to you. It was a promise that the world could be new again. She closed her eyes and saw ropes unrolling across the desert, bands of light that lifted the ambulance's tires a half-inch off the earth. She felt for the first time how the planet hummed on its own, a carefully tuned drum, and how Kesh tuned to it. Not to break it, but to carry them both. "Tell Luann we're leaving in 30 seconds, Maya said. "Give her the generator keys," Hendricks sprinted. Dom climbed into the driver's seat, hands trembling, and then steadied. "Got it," he said. "Where are we going?" "South," Maya said, the word punching up from her chest like she'd stumbled upon a truth. Hoover Dam?" Dom blinked. "Why?" "Because it's big and old and stubborn and full of water and concrete," Maya said. "Because the world hums there." She didn't know how she knew. Kesh's fingers warmed against her shoulder. "It is a hard place," Kesh murmured. "Silence hates hard places." They rolled. The clinic fell away behind them like a door closing. The Horizon machine unfolded more of itself, long and sleek and hungry, absorbing Starlight into a dark body that wasn't a body at all, but a shape cut out of sensing. Hendricks's SUV tucked behind the ambulance like a remora fish sticking to a whale. Lights went dead up and down the highway as they passed. Billboards, gas stations, a lonely diner with a neon coyote in the window. Maya kept one hand on the gurney, feeling the agent breathe under the straps. With the other, she gripped the rail and tried not to think about all the ways the road could stop. Kesh sat cross-legged on the floor, palms down, eyes half closed, humming that silent song. The ambulance floated. The speedometer did not know what to do with itself, its needle sliding into places speedometers don't believe in. They reached the dam just before 4. The sky was graying in the east. The Colorado below looked like a vein drawn across a throat of stone. The visitor lot lights were dead. The spillways gaped like mouths. "Keep going," Maya said, and Dom did. Down a service road where a padlocked gate offered advice more than instruction tonight. Hendricks clipped the lock with a bolt cutter he found in his trunk like a magician's handkerchief and waved them through. They parked on the apron above the turbines. A continent's worth of concrete thinking thoughts too slow for people. The silence followed. Slower now. Heavy with whatever Kesh had done. It pressed at the edges of things. It made lidar ghosts of lampposts. It was a storm without rain. Kesh stood, a little unsteady, and leaned into Maya. The touch wasn't romantic in the way movies taught you. No breathless music, no sudden need. It was simply the rightness of a hand writing its name. Maya slid an arm around them. "What do you need?" she asked. "A harder song," Kesh said. "This place sings but low and old. We need a bridge. What kind of bridge?" Kesh turned their face to hers, and light broke in their eyes like glass in sun. "You," they said. "And the other one?" "Other one?" Hendricks walked up, out of breath from carrying a portable generator that he probably didn't need. He stopped when he saw Kesh looking at him as if he were both puzzle and peace. "Oh," he said. "I'm the other one." "You chased me," Kesh said. "But you also held a seal on your friend's chest. These are the same song, Inside You." "I shot at your ship," Hendricks said, the words like confession. He swallowed. "I was ordered to. And then I saw you and I don't know." "Things look different up close." "They do," Kesh said. "Will you help?" Hendricks looked at Maya and then at the black mass creeping up the canyon like a bad idea. He laughed, short and harsh. "I don't know how to help," he said honestly. "Stand close," Kesh said. "Keep your mind open," Hendricks snorted. "That's the hardest thing you could have asked me." He stood beside Maya anyway. Kesh raised both hands, palms toward the dam, and began to sing. The song wasn't for ears. It was for the concrete and the water and the thin electrical thread that ran through everything. Maya felt it in her teeth. Hendricks shuddered. Dom, up in the cab, put a hand on the dashboard like he could steady the ambulance by convincing it. The turbines below them offered a bass line, the river a low, patient vowel. Something old in the world rolled over and listened. The silence tried to move faster. It didn't like to be ignored. It pressed against the tune like a cat pushing into a closed door. Lights along the dam flickered once, then steadied. Kesh's shoulders trembled. Maya reached for their hand. Hendricks did the same from the other side. Kesh took both their hands and braided the grip into the song. It hurt. Not the way a knife hurts, but the way a truth you don't want to hear hurts. It stripped varnish. It scraped off the names Maya had given herself to be safe. Good daughter, good worker, good at not needing. It left behind a simpler thing. A person standing in the wind with 2 other people, choosing. Kesh cried out, the first sound they'd made that was unclean. The silence surged. The lights died. Air pressed hard in Maya's ears, and then popped. For one instant, everything was dark. Not the absence of light, but the absence of permission. Then the river sang. Water hit something it had never hit before inside the song and found a way to be louder. The dam took the tone and threw it back, amplified, stupid with mass. Hendricks shouted wordlessly because it felt like being inside a jet engine built by a choir. Dom whooped because he couldn't help it. Luann, miles away at the clinic, looked up from her patient and felt something unstick in her chest, a knot she hadn't known she'd tied in high school. The silence didn't die. It flinched. It scraped away from the hard place like oil from soap. It tried to sidle left and creep up another path. Kesh moved with it, their song racing, their body shaking now. Maya felt their hand slip in hers and grabbed tighter. Hendricks did the same, and this time maybe it was a kind of marriage. But with the world instead of each other. "Almost," Kesh said through clenched teeth. "Almost." Oh, the sun cracked the horizon. Light slid down the face of the dam like a thought. The song jumped an octave. The silence broke, not like a glass, like a rule, like a sign that had stood too long across a road people needed. It came apart with a sound you only hear once in a life, if you're blessed or cursed. The sound of something that believed itself important, realizing it was not. It left a pressure difference in its wake that made Maya stumble and Hendricks catch her elbow on reflex, not training, and Kesh sag as if their strings had been cut. The turbines hummed, the ambulance ticked, the crickets again remembered their courage. For a long time, nobody spoke. Then Kesh laughed, shaky and delighted and very, very tired. "You are noisy animals," they said. "Thank you," Maya said. Absurdly, and then she started laughing too. Because it had worked, because it was morning, because she was alive, and the person whose hand she held was not a person at all, and that complicated everything in a way that made her feel more like herself, not less. Hendricks sat down hard on the concrete and put his head in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. "I can't bring you in," he said hoarsely to Kesh. "I can't do that anymore." "You were never going to," Kesh said, like a friend pointing out something obvious that would change your life if you let it. "You only thought you had to." "We have to get you out of here," Hendricks continued, voice gathering as if words could be planned. "They'll send more, bigger, louder, if that thing was Sentinels, it'll have a footprint. If it wasn't," he didn't finish the if. The world had gotten bigger in the last hour. "The ifs had too. Can you go home?" Dom called from the cab. "Eggs busted." "We can grow another," Kesh said. "But we need time, and quiet, and privacy." They said the last word as if it were a delicious new taste. "I know a place," Maya said before she'd thought fully through the consequences, which is how most of the good things in her life had started, and some of the bad ones too. "My grandmother's cabin near the Kaibab. Off the grid. Cold as a cop's heart in winter, but it's fall now. We can get you supplies." Hendricks nodded, already slipping into a different role. "I can muddy your trail. I can file 3 conflicting reports and 2 orders. I can leak that the subject moved north to Rachel and the militia boys will chase jackrabbits for weeks." "You will be in trouble," Kesh observed. Hendricks smiled a crooked smile that finally looked like it belonged on his face. "You'd be surprised how useful trouble can be when you aim it. And I'm tired of being tidy." They moved fast. The agent in the ambulance was stable enough for a cautious transport to Vegas at first light. Hendricks called an old friend whose loyalty was more to patients than to institutions. Dom drove 20 miles on back roads without leaving tracks anyone sane could follow. Maya sat with Kesh in the back, palm pressed to palm, and tried to learn how to breathe alongside someone who didn't breathe the way she did. "You changed me," Maya said softly, not complaining, just noticing. "You changed me," Kesh said. "I did not know humans could be bridges, or that you would want to be. Do your people have—" She flailed for a word that didn't erase what she meant. "Love?" Kesh tilted their head. "We have binding," they said. "We have a way of promising to carry each other. We have joy that is not merely efficient." "Is that love?" "It's close," Maya said, and surprised herself by saying it. She looked out the back window where sunrise made gravel look like sugar. "It's a thing you can choose even when it's not smart. Maybe especially then." Kesh's smile was small and private. "Then yes," they said. "We have that. There is someone at home." We were bound. "We came here anyway because the stars were loud and we are not good at ignoring songs. And now?" "And now," Kesh said, "we will try to go home. We will explain. We will bring back stories. We will say we kept a promise and made another." "To who?" "To you," Kesh said simply. "I will come back, if you wish it." Maya's heart did a strange, clumsy thing that was half hope and half protective anger at her own hope. "I don't know if that's a good idea," she said honestly. Kesh nodded. "Not good," they agreed, "but true." They reached the cabin as the day decided beyond argument to be day. Ponderosa pine, a porch with a swing that screeched in a way Maya had always meant to fix. The air cool and clean. A place where the noise of the world took its shoes off and sat a while. They stayed 3 days. Hendricks appeared once, unshaven, wearing a hat that made him look like a rancher, and dropped off boxes, dried beans, a satellite phone he swore had never met a satellite in its life, a first aid kit, 3 toothbrushes because buying one felt too declarative. He taught Maya how to read a certain kind of government map for what it didn't say. He did not wear his sunglasses. He told Kesh a joke about two bureaucrats walking into a bar, and Kesh looked deeply concerned until he explained what a joke was. Whereupon Kesh looked more deeply concerned. Dom texted memes to Maya's old flip phone because the cabin had one strange seam of signal, and because sometimes the right picture of a cat can carry a person. Across an hour, Luann called Maya baby on a recorded message and told her the agent told a story about lights on a dam that made no sense, and she was going to have to figure out her own truth because Luann was not a librarian for other people's secrets. Kesh grew, not in size, but in steadiness. They learned how to boil water on an old stove and how to step carefully around a squeaky floorboard and how the word porch is a spell for all kinds of peace. At night, they sang the egg back into being, a small black seed of a road in a wooden bowl on the kitchen table. It looked like nothing. It was the most beautiful thing Maya had ever seen. On the fourth morning, with frost on the railing and a mountain bluebird perched like an apology for everything, the egg cracked right. "I have to go," Kesh said. "I know," Maya said. "I will return," Kesh said. Maya breathed in the promise-like air. "I don't need you to promise," she said. "I need you to want to." Kesh looked at her like the first night again, but softer around the edges because now there were edges to be soft around. "I want to," they said. They stood very close. They did not kiss. It would have been an easy picture, and nothing about them had been easy. Instead, Kesh laid their forehead against Maya's and let the hum pass between them one last time, low as a purr and wide as the sky. "Bring back better songs," Maya whispered. "I will bring back yours," Kesh answered. They took the egg in their palms and stepped into nothing that was actually everything if you looked at it right. The kitchen smelled like rain for a long time after. Maya sat on the porch swing and listened to the world be ordinary. A squirrel scolded her for existing. A plane scratched a white line across blue. Somewhere down the road, a truck backfired and a dog decided to have opinions about it. She put her feet up. She took them down. She laughed. She cried. She breathed in and out until both actions belonged to her again. Hendricks called later that week from a number the phone insisted was from 00000000. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm good," she said, and found that it was mostly true. "Tell me," he said, "when they come back, what do we do?" Maya thought of laws and borders and the way silence tries to eat songs. She thought of bridges. She thought of hard places where good music can stand. "Maybe we try something we never try first," she said. We listened. Hendricks made a sound that was not quite a laugh. "Radical," he said. "I'll see what I can do." They hung up. The swing squealed, and then, after a breath, softened, because she'd greased it yesterday with bacon fat and a prayer. Autumn took hold in the kaibob. Dom sent a photo of a cat attempting to eat a cantaloupe, and Maya laughed so hard she had to sit down. Luann mailed a postcard that said, "People never notice anything" on the front and "Hold the line" on the back. Maya returned to night shift, to the ambulance's steady growl and the monitor's insistence that hearts talk in a language you can read if you want to. On a Tuesday in November, 2 hours before dawn, the radio cackled with static, and then a tone that wasn't a tone at all, just a familiar pressure. Maya looked up. The stars over Highway 93 seemed to shiver and then stand a little taller. Dom glanced over. "You hear that?" Maya smiled, small and private and enormous and public all at once. "Yeah," she said. "I hear it." The night was not quiet. It was full of songs. And somewhere, not far, an egg cracked open, and something stepped between worlds, careful of their feet, ready to try being here again, not as a subject, but as a promise kept.